there's something here for everybody in Northwest Arkansas. And it's the kind of place that, you really can make your dreams come true in a space like this. It's not going to be easy, but because people are really open to building relationships and really connecting with you, I mean, I can't think of more fertile territory for you to start something.
This is the Startup Junkies podcast. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Startup Junkies podcast. Thank you for tuning in wherever and however you're tuning in from. My name is Daniel Kuntz, and I'm one of your hosts today. I'm joined by Mr. Ty Steele and Miss Grace Olson. Ty?
How's it going?
How are you doing?
Glad to be here.
Yeah, Grace, how are you doing today?
Doing well, thanks. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is your breakout episode, right?
Breakout, first one.
First time.
Yes.
Okay, well, we're glad you guys are with us today. Well, we're also glad because we're joined by our new friend. He's the Director of Communications and Marketing at the Fayetteville Public Library, the founder and the host of I Am Northwest Arkansas, Mr. Randy Wilburn. Randy, how are you doing today?
I'm good, man. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be back here with Startup Junkie once again.
Yeah,
right. So this is fun.
We were talking, this is what, your third time?
Yes.
Third time. So you kind of know how we like to start these episodes then, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So for some of our audience who might not know that you've been on that show before, give us your origin, give us your background story a little bit.
Sure. So, again, Randy Wilburn, founder of I Am Northwest Arkansas. It's a podcast that covers the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life here in the Ozarks. I started it 7 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long. Basically, it's a podcast I would have wanted when I moved here in 2014, but it didn't exist. And so fast forward 5 years later, I created it in 2019. And now 7 years and over 400 episodes later, I'm still doing the podcast, still telling stories. I have not missed a Monday in 7 years. So
incredible.
every week, brand new episode, and just honored to be able to tell the story of all the amazing people that make Northwest Arkansas what it is.
Mm-hmm. So who's typically the guests that come on the show?
We get a variety of people. So we work with organizations, we work with individuals. People ask me all the time, how do I get on the podcast? And I say, well, if you have an interesting short story, I probably will think that you might be appropriate to bring on. But we've had, everybody from Charu Thomas from Ox to Tanner Green to Mark Zweig, who's a really dear friend of mine. He's also a professor at the Sam Walton College of Business. He has a chair there in entrepreneurship. And so just another amazing individual. I've had Startup Junkie on the podcast. So we've had, all individuals are fair game, and we just like telling really unique stories. So
you moved here in 2014, correct?
Yes.
Where were you beforehand?
Boston.
Yeah,
for 17 years I was in Boston, and that's where I met Mark Zweig. He and I were owners of a company called Zweig, White and Associates. It was a management consulting and publishing firm which serves the design industry. That firm continues to run to this day, and they're the reason why I relocated here in 2014. The firm was originally sold. We got acquired by somebody else. I left to go do my thing. Mark left to come teach here in Arkansas. And then we reunited again. And so, you know what they say, you always want to, keep strong relationships, right? Because you never know when you'll get that call, or you'll never know when you reach back out to someone that has worked with you in the past and says, hey, let's work together again. And so I answered the call again, and he convinced me to move to Arkansas, my wife and I and my 3 boys. And we've been here 11 years and have loved every minute of it. So
he's very convincing, isn't he?
He is very convincing.
I took his class at the university.
Yes. So you know the history of Mark Zweig, and you know his ability to compel students to really do the right thing, especially as it pertains to business. And I think about all of the different entrepreneurs that have come through his program over the last more than a decade, and we've seen some that have done really, really well. And so it's always nice to be related to or connected with someone like that is really speaking into the lives of the next generation of entrepreneurs here in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah. What was a transition like going from Boston, coming to a city that's growing rapidly like NWA?
Man, I'm still acclimating myself
Still
to
figuring
that.
it
Yeah,
out.
I
Yeah.
mean, my biggest issue is like I can't go out after 9 o'clock and get a slice of pizza or something like that.
Mhm.
Not like real pizza. And then my wife and I, we still kind of complain about the big city things that we just don't have here. I'm from right outside of New York City, so that's a city that never sleeps. Boston, I won't say it's a city that never sleeps, but I mean, I can go out at 10 or 11 o'clock at night and still get a decent meal.
Get your
Can't
slice
really
of
do
pizza,
that here
yeah.
unless you want to go to Sonic and there's nothing wrong with those
Right.
places, but
Yeah.
I prefer to, to eat something of substance.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, that's the only challenge. But outside of that, this area has really grown on me. Again, when I got here in 2014, I remember landing at XNA and I looked around and, back in the day, you landed at XNA and it was
Nothing.
like cow fields.
Fields all
Like,
around,
I'm like,
yeah.
where am I? And I said, man, I said, I don't know if I can do this. And I remember taking the rental car and driving into Fayetteville, and then slowly but surely, it really clicked that, wow, this could be a good place. And, at that point in time, Northwest Arkansas was and still is on the come up, right? I mean, it's an evolving space. It's one of the fastest growing MSAs in the country. More and more people, like when I first started doing my podcast, about 28 to 29 people a day were relocating here. Now it's closer to 40.
Wow.
And that's huge, right?
Yeah.
And this area, this region, Northwest Arkansas, is going to be about 1 million plus people somewhere around 2045, 2050, depending on how fast they move here. So it's been exciting. It's
Yeah.
been exciting. Yeah.
And hopefully, in the future, restaurants stay open a little later, bars may stay open a
Well,
little
yeah.
later.
I mean, we'll get there. But it's funny you say that. I laugh about that, but at the same time, just the other day, Onyx Coffee was awarded the best coffee
saw that.
shop
Mhm.
in the world.
Yep.
And it's right here in Northwest Arkansas,
Mhm.
right? So that's something that you can be proud of. I remember when they first started really on the national scene and they were competing against coffee shops like Stumptown up in Oregon and some others, and you were thinking, man, maybe one day they'll be there, and now they're there,
Now it's-
right?
yeah,
I mean,
right.
it's like, and you think about it, and it's like, yeah, that's a regular coffee spot for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had so many meetings at Onyx, and I've had John and Andrea on the podcast a couple of times.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, that's the entrepreneurial ecosystem that exists here in Northwest Arkansas. And so when you see that type of business excellence in practice on a daily basis, it can't help but it can't hurt but help you as you decide what you want to do, especially if you're trying to start a business.
Mhm.
And that's why I really appreciate what you guys do in this marketplace, because you give a lot of entrepreneurs hope. You provide a blueprint for success. You provide resources and tools, which every startup needs. And it's important, and that's, I mean, I think this is one of the most thriving entrepreneurial ecosystems in the country.
Yeah. Thank you for that shout out, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
We
Absolutely.
got to make sure we clip that, use that for our social right there. But no,
sure.
totally agree. This is kind of a little bubble here. And you've had so many awesome founders and entrepreneurs on your podcast.
Mhm.
When talking to these founders, what's one thing that sticks out that says that all of them have in common that says, yeah, this person's going to be successful here in Northwest Arkansas?
Relationship building, right? I mean, everything that I've done here literally has been born out of one solid relationship. And I just mentioned his name earlier, Mark Zweig. And people think I joke about that, but he has introduced me to people who've introduced me to people, and so on and so on and so on. And the relationship, the thing that I love about Northwest Arkansas in general, not just business, but just the people here are really cool.
Mhm.
And people legitimately want to see you succeed and have success, even if they're in a competing space, right? And that's something that you don't normally see. I spent time out in the Bay Area in San Francisco, pre-dot-com boom. I know I don't look that old, but I've been around a little bit. I actually, my first office when I got out of school, and I had an office in San Francisco on Townsend between 2nd and 3rd. I was in the same building where Wired Magazine got started. And so I've kind of been around and seen a lot of different things, but, Boston's very parochial, and if you don't know somebody in Boston, it's going to be hard for you to get ahead. But here in Northwest Arkansas, I've seen so many people just relocate here hang a shingle, and then all of a sudden you're like, man, these guys they're blowing up. They're doing it. So, and I've had people like that on my podcast. And I just think that's why I love continuing to tell these stories, because there's something here for everybody in Northwest Arkansas. And it's the kind of place that, you really can make your dreams come true in a space like this. It's not going to be easy, but because people are really open to building relationships and really connecting with you, I mean, I can't think of more fertile territory for you to start something.
Yeah, very well said. You know where it all comes from, right? Where it stems from.
Where?
The relationship and leaning on one another to build your business. You know where it's come from, right?
Where?
It's really corny. It's really cheesy.
What's that?
But Walton's, JB Hunt, and Tyson, they all had to lean on each other to help each other grow. It just gets passed down from generation to generation.
Yeah, well, and that's a good point. And that's honestly for us here, that is the elephant in the room, right?
Right.
We don't always mention it. I mean, we're talking, Walmart's a Fortune 1.
Yeah.
No matter what Amazon is saying, Walmart is legitimately a huge company, and they're really making inroads. I've become a student. I read Sam Walton's autobiography prior to moving here. Then I've read it again 3 times. I also follow a lot of what Sam Walton has done and the stories that people tell about him. And I've had a few people that are FOS, Friends of Sam, on my podcast. And, they all share really unique stories about what made him special. And I mean, Sam Walton was the kind of guy that would go around the country to investigate other successful businesses. I mean, the reason why he created Sam's Club was because he went out and hung out with a guy named Saul Price out in California. And because the Price Club, and that's where he got the whole idea of the big box warehouse like that. And of course, we know about Costco, which is their biggest competitor, but I mean, there's nothing new under the sun, right? And a lot of times we want to create something that no one's ever seen before, but imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And there's always a way for you to improve on something, especially with the mindset that Sam Walton had. And so we see that with the trucking and logistics, with what JB Hunt has done. We see that with poultry, with Tyson. And again, while we all can't be that huge, large company, I think Tyson is the second largest meat producer in the world, outside of a company in Brazil. But I mean, that's huge. When you think of it, it's right here in our backyard. In these 2 counties between Benton and Washington County, we have all of that entrepreneurial experience, entrepreneurial history. So we're standing on some pretty broad shoulders. And I think, anyone that comes here has an opportunity to really do something special with their business, with their ideas, where they can grow them, because, I mean, people are looking to see folks succeed here. They really are.
Yeah.
What do you think that means for business owners or founders like yourself?
I just think it means that, again, anything is possible. I don't think that, I think if you have a really good idea and you've stumbled upon something that you think you want to bring to market, I can't think of a better place to test it out. You're going to find out fairly quickly whether or not it has legs, whether or not people kind of believe in what you're talking about. And sometimes you may get that casual tap on the shoulder that says, I don't know if that's the one you want to do. Maybe you should try this. Right. And that's the other thing about the agility of small businesses, to be willing and able to pivot. Right. Because sometimes what you find with founders is that they struggle with this idea that I'm going to make this thing happen. I'm going to bring this to market, but so help me God.
Yeah.
And that's not always the best thing. Sometimes you need to know when to pivot.
Yep.
And I've had the pleasure of coaching a lot of small businesses here, some startups with, pitch competitions and things of that nature. And I've gone and been a judge for the Governor's Cup down in Little Rock. And I've seen a lot of these businesses, and I'm always aware. And one of the first things I say to companies that win a pitch, it's like, hey, this is great, but this may not ultimately be the end for you in this particular position or the company. You may end up going in a different direction depending on what the market will say, right? And that's the thing. We sometimes ignore. We think we know best. The market will tell you unequivocally whether your idea is good or not.
Yep.
Right?
You'll know.
Your grandmother will love it. Your mother will love it. Maybe your other family members, but the market never lies. The market bats 1,000. And so you can ignore the market to your own peril, or you can pay attention to what the market's saying. And especially if you connect with other people, like-minded individuals that are here that have had some success, they may help you along the way. And again, that's why I say the relationships are so important, that you've got to connect with other people in this area that have kind of been there and done that, because they have the scars to show it. And they can say, hey, avoid that. Don't go down that road. There's multiple potholes on the road. This road's going to be a little smoother sailing. Yes, there may be a pothole or two, but you can navigate it. And I think every business owner wants that type of help or advice. There's a few that like to be lone rangers and just do it on their own, but that doesn't always work. If you want to go far, you got to go far together. You can't go far by yourself.
Yeah. I love the fact that you bring up pivoting and kind of paying attention to the market. Can you share a time in your career where you paid attention, you had to pivot?
Yeah, it's funny. Recently, I started a job board called Onboard NWA, which still exists, but I realized that the market was changing pretty rapidly. This is at the early stages of the AI boom. And so things have changed a lot. I don't think job boards are what they used to be. I still see a value in them. I think job boards are really valuable from a niche perspective. So what I'm seeing is niche job boards are still having a lot of success, but just the general, we're going to fill every type of position job board is not the same. And that's kind of what I had started. And so even though it still exists, I recognized fairly quickly that my efforts and the time that I was putting into it, I needed to pivot off of that and refocus on a few other things that I was working on, because I didn't think that it was going to have the staying power that I would have hoped for. And so I think the lesson learned from that is simply that you need to know when to say when, and be willing to kind of go in a different direction. You can't be so wedded to an idea or to a certain missions that if they don't come to fruition, you just keep going down that road, because that's the definition of insanity. I mean, you just don't want to do that. And so I've learned some valuable lessons that way, and it's helped me personally. And honestly, the one thing that I have done that has really always served me well is just the ability to communicate effectively, storytell, and to do the podcast, which has, kind of taken on a life of its own, in terms of what I do with my business. And so I'm going to continue to do that, because they were writing drawings in caves and telling stories that way, and now they're doing it behind a mic, right?
Yep.
And so storytelling's never going to go away. It's why Joseph Campbell wrote, he talked about the hero's journey, and we've seen it manifested in most of the major movies that you watch, the arc of a hero's journey that can be applied to business practices and business principles. Your customer is the hero in the hero's journey. You can also be the hero in your journey as well, but there's a lot of different ways to look at it. But I think it's important to understand that, storytelling is timeless. And every business needs to be able, and I'm kind of switching gears here now, if a business can't effectively tell their story, the why behind why they do what they do, why am I going to invest in you? Why am I going to purchase items or products from you? It's going to be very difficult for me to do that.
Right.
So,
well, if you can give one piece of advice to some of those businesses who need help, telling their story, what would it be?
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, the first thing I would say is, you need to understand who you are, why you're doing what you're doing, right? Because people can smell desperation a mile away.
Yeah.
Right. And so first of all, you need to know you need to know your true North Star and your why. I mean, Simon Sinek talked about starting with your why, and that matters, because people, if I can believe in what your mission is, then I can invest in you, whether that means buying your product or investing in your company. But if I can't believe you, then it's going to be really difficult. So I would start with knowing and having the narrative of who I am down first. Then identifying who my ideal client is, my ideal avatar, who am I selling to, and what problem am I trying to solve, and start storytelling around that with regard to the products and or services that I'm offering that I think can help that individual. And if you're not doing that, I mean, you've got to be able to, I told a bunch of folks at the Macmillan Innovation Studio the other day, I said, if you can't in 30 seconds tell me why I should even be remotely interested in what you're selling, then you've lost it. And that's what you have to get down. And too many people fumble around with everything, trying to disclaim everything and focusing on all of the features of their business as opposed to talking about the benefits, right? Because every consumer in the world on this planet focuses on what they need. Right? It's what I need. When you go into the store, it's what you're looking for. There are certain things that you need to the exclusion of everything else. And so when I tell small business owners and startups, you got to focus on what that customer needs. And if you have what they need, you have to articulate that as quickly as you can to let them know that they've come to the right place, whether that's your website, whether that's your social media channel, whether that's meeting you in person at an expo or something along those lines.
Yeah. How do you do that? How do you figure that out? Is that through trial and error? You find out what you need for, if I'm going to the store, then Walmart has what I need or whatever. Like, how do you figure that out, what your audience needs or what you're looking for?
Well, and that's the funny thing. It's my wife and I have a joke because we always say, hold up now, Walmart's got everything. Yeah. They really do have everything, right?
You need something.
And you don't always need everything that they have, but there's always a good chance that if you walk into Walmart, you could walk out with something that would be desirable,
Benefit,
that would fit what your needs are. But I think it's, again, you have to determine what your customer wants. And once you do that, then you can figure out, okay, is this something that I have, this service or this product, does that fill in the blank, do what my client needs it to do? And it's not something that, there is trial and error. You have to talk to people. You have to communicate and get feedback. I mean, that's why I think surveys are so important. People just, you could throw out quizzes out there to find out where people are. People will tell you where they are, but you have to ask the right questions. If you're not asking the right questions, you will never know where that consumer is. So I think that's important.
That's why, we strongly emphasize here when you get on a consulting call, just customer discovery. You mentioned earlier, grandma's going to think it's an awesome idea. Your mom's going to think it's an awesome idea. We tell people, if you've got this idea and you need to validate it, go talk to people.
Yeah,
go to Walmart. Go to a farmer's market. If you go to the gym, go talk to people, ask some questions. Like I said, you got to ask the right questions. But your mom's going to tell you what you want to hear. Your friends are probably going to tell you what you want to hear.
My gosh. I mean, it's crazy now. And here's the thing, and I will say this, I'm a little older than you guys. I got a few more gray hairs, but I only wish that I had access to the tools that you guys have access to in a lot of instances for free. Right? I mean, when I graduated from college, I barely had an email address. And now you guys have ChatGPT, Claude, you've got Gemini, you have all of these tools at your disposal to do whatever you want to do. So if you want to call up or ask ChatGPT to pretend or act as if they are a modern survey expert and you say, hey, I'm working on this particular project in this particular industry and I want to survey the public to determine exactly what their need is, you have that ability to do that. Back in the day, man, I would have to be working on that for weeks to come up with that. And now you literally have access to it at your fingertips as quickly as you can type and as quickly as you can prompt it properly, it being the AI properly, to then determine and come up with some answers for you to then go on. I mean, so the ability to iterate in this day and age with a small business, with a startup, is phenomenally faster than any time prior in history. And I think it's important, especially for people listening to this, that, if you take your time, all of the answers are out there for the most part. It's just, everybody wants to build a bigger, better mousetrap. And I just think the tools to build that bigger, better mousetrap are easily at your disposal. You can do it in your parents' basement if you want to. That's the difference between now and, say, 25, 30 years ago when I was coming out of college, and it was just a lot different.
Yeah, we're definitely in a fortunate position.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
The Startup Junkies podcast is brought to you in part by Arise. Arise helps Arkansas tech and tech-enabled startups grow with no-cost coaching, capital navigation, and expert connections so founders can scale faster. Learn more at arisearkansas.org.
Okay, so I've got a question for you. I was looking at your LinkedIn. Great headshot, by the way. But your banner, it says, get 1% better every day.
Oh, yeah.
recently, what's something you've been doing to get 1% better every day?
Well, so that came from that. I'm not going to take credit for that, although I use it. I even carry I have these little banners, these little bands on that say "Get 1% better every day." I wear these as reminders to just focus on just incremental improvement.
Did you get it from Atomic Habits?
I got, the talk was from Atomic, but he wasn't the first person to talk about it. He basically said, based on all the studies that that James Clear participated in, he saw that even just incremental improvement can move the needle forward.
Right.
And that's why the whole 1% better every day makes a huge difference, even in the span of 1 year, if that's your focus. And so what people want to take these giant leaps.
Right.
And what I tell folks is just one small step can get you that much closer to your goal. And so, get 1% better every day. That is at the banner. I need to change it because it's been
I like it. I know. I love it.
It's been like that for a while, and there are mountains there and everything. And the whole idea is just simply, it's a point of encouragement. That's kind of why I named my company Encourage, Build, Grow. It's an S Corp, but I mean, I've just wanted to encourage people to grow and build something special, right? Maybe something that the world has never seen before. Although there is nothing new under the sun, like I said earlier, there's still space for you to create your dream business, right? And that dream business could honestly, it could be a laundromat.
Right.
It could be, but it might be the best laundromat in the world, or it might be a laundromat where it's got Wi-Fi and all these other, things that you wouldn't think a laundromat would have. And although I know that's been done in the past, a lot of times we look at these unsexy businesses as like, nobody wants to do that, but people are making money with laundromats. People are making money with vending machines, and you name it. There is no shortage of opportunities to start and run a business and have success. Right. It's just really dependent on how much work you really want to put in to make it happen.
Yeah.
So
no, I love just the incremental growth. Luke is behind the camera. He's heard me say it several times this year, but I've been saying, people forget that a mile is made up of inches.
It is.
I also say slow motion is better than no motion.
Exactly. And let me add one more thing. So in the 60s, Mr. Toyota, this was, post 20 years after we dropped the bomb in Japan, both in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, it took Japan a long time to rebuild. But once they got going, Mr. Toyota talked about this whole concept when he started his company, Toyota, about just consistent improvement. They call it Kaizen. They teach that in business school. And it's just the idea that you're making these small incremental steps to grow. And we saw what happened. The Japanese, they took this Kaizen approach. Mr. Datsun did the same thing, which is now Nissan. They all did the same thing. And then they ended up eating Detroit's lunch, right? When you think about American cars, and we still haven't really recovered from that. No. So the reality is that there's something to be said for this idea that all it takes is you just take one step at a time, and you have one small victory, and then you take that victory and you build off of that, and then the next victory is that much better. So, that's something that I tell people all the time. You don't have to go really far right away. Just take a small step. And that's why I say get 1% better every day. I've read James Clear's. I mean, I tell people all the time, if there is one book that you want to read, I think it's a book about habits, because those habits will inform how you handle your day-to-day activities, both in your personal life as well as in your professional life. And if you allow that level of excellence to creep into all aspects of your life, you're going to have a much greater opportunity of being a successful entrepreneur.
Yeah. That idea of 1% better, if you do that every day, when you look back from a year from now, if you've gone better 1% each day, then you will see the progress you've made, and it can continue year after year.
I mean, I think, I don't do public math, but I want to say it's like a 37% increase over 1 year, right? Because I mean, it's huge. And I would always I do these leadership classes, and I would tell people that, if you think about a plane taking off from LAX and going to JFK, if that pilot changes the counter on that plane just 3 degrees off, he's going to end up in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, right.
So it doesn't take much to get you to, you know what I'm saying, to get
Mhm.
you where you're going. So that's why I tell people all the time, just slight incremental growth, and before you know it, you're killing it.
1% every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs can get so wrapped up with everything, and the day-to-day grind and then just revenue and customers and all this. Everything just seems so big, where it's like, no, maybe today you treated customers better than you ever have before.
Yeah.
Maybe today you made that marketing post that you really didn't want to. You didn't feel like making that graphic on Canva, but you did, and you posted, you uploaded it. Or you just have these small incremental changes to where you look back in a year, you do something like that every day, you're going to have a good business.
Yeah. And, I think for me, it's like one of the things that a lot of people that I talk to about podcasting, they're like, man, how do you do it? And how do you get an episode out each week in 7 years? That's a long time. I mean, I've been podcasting since 2009. So I've done over 2,500 episodes.
Wow.
But what I tell people is if you stay consistent, right? And so my whole thing was it was just simple. Just press record. Just be willing to press record as much as I can. And after a while, you build up some momentum, and you use that momentum to kind of take you to where you want to go. And honestly, at this point, as I tell people, I always have several months worth of content in the hopper, ready to go. And then at new things as they present themselves, I'll record those as well. So I always have something ready to go. But it wasn't like that at the beginning. I had to work at it, and I had to build it up. But once I built it up, it's just kind of taken on a life of its own. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, once you really, prime that pump, right? And you think of the flywheel, you get it going. Over time, it's like, man, it starts to, inertia builds up, and then it starts to take on, the movement just propels itself, right? And so that's the thing. And with a business, I mean, you have to put that work in on the early stages, but down the road, you can kind of benefit from the time and effort that you put in up front. Those long nights, those extra sessions, if you're recording, to get something recorded and to save it so that you can share it out with your audience. I mean, it just takes time and effort, but it will pay off in the long run.
Yeah.
So.
An object in motion stays in motion.
Exactly.
Right.
100%.
They hear me say
100%
every now and then.
Yeah, we've thrown out so many cliches and so many.
Oh,
different,
I love cliches.
I do cliches and just truisms, if you will, right? And I think a lot of times we laugh at them, but when you look at every successful business, they all can apply a truism and say, this is what we did. And in the case of Walmart, I mean, Sam Walton treated customers right and treated his employees right. And I know that, yes, I mean, no company's perfect, and every company has their challenges, but the bottom line is that the foundation of what Walmart started, they're still benefiting from it today.
Yeah.
Right? And that's how you have to look at it. And when you look at how he treated people, especially as that thing got off the ground, and it's the hardest thing is like, how does an airplane get off the ground? But once it gets off the ground, that airflow and everything else just lets it take off.
Take care of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. The golden state of capitalism in America, the 30s to 60s, they live by 4 principles in order. They'd go take care of your employees.
Yep.
After that, take care of your customers.
Yep.
After that, take care of your community, who's around you. Fourth thing is profit.
Yeah.
Typically, we don't say this to Startup Junkie. I like to say this to people I meet with. You take care of the first 3, that fourth's going to take care of itself.
It's going to take care of itself. Yeah,
it typically
absolutely.
does. Finds a way.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And you said something earlier, and I didn't get to talk about it, but when you think of I've worked with an organization called the Northwest Arkansas Council, which was founded by Sam Walton, J.B. Hunt, and Don Tyson. And when you look at their whole thing was, while it was for them, make no mistake about it, for their businesses, they wanted to holistically see Northwest Arkansas come up, right?
Right.
So while all of these companies are on the stock exchange and all of that, they're doing great. They wanted to create an environment where other businesses could really do great and excel. And so when you look at the list of businesses that are now part of the Northwest Arkansas Council, I can only imagine that somebody like Sam Walton or J.B. Hunt, that if they're looking down on this, they're saying, man, that was I'm really glad we started that, because look at where it is now, and it's only going to continue to improve.
Yeah.
And so when I see somebody like a Todd Simmons or someone like that has had a significant amount of success, kind of standing on the shoulders of what Don Tyson and his dad did to start Tyson, or just looking at what Sam Walton did or J.B. Hunt, it's like, yeah, we have all these examples, and they laid the foundation and created a framework that in just about any business that comes to Northwest Arkansas, if they really truly want to have success, I believe in my heart they can. They got to put the work in. There's no substitute for that.
Yep.
But this is a really good place to try to do that.
Yeah.
What personally motivated you to spotlight individuals in Northwest Arkansas?
I think, again, from my podcast, it was the podcast I would have wanted when I moved here in 2014, and it didn't exist. So I was my perfect listener or client or customer. And so I said, I want to create a podcast like that. And sure enough, there were other people that wanted to listen to that. And so that was the reason why I created the podcast. And then that podcast has then basically translated into a lot of other different things that I've done in the 7 years since I started that. Since I left the company that I came here to work for, I worked with Zwei Group for 5 years, and then I left to start Encourage, Build, Grow, and it's been 7 years. And yes, I do work at the Fayetteville Public Library, but I work there because I grew up in the library. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I've always had a library card. I was that kid that spent my Saturdays in the library when I wasn't doing sports. So the library is very near and dear to my heart, and I've had a chance to feature the library on my podcast several times, and had a chance to build a relationship with David Johnson, the executive director there. And of course, I tell people all the time, the library is one of the reasons why we moved here as well, because my wife was really blown away by the library. And this was pre-expansion. Now we have 190,000 square feet of space. We've got a restaurant. We've got our Sega's coffee shop. We've got an event center that seats 750. We can have 500 for a banquet and 1,000 standing for a concert. Wow. They've hosted off-Broadway plays. And you can get any library book that you want.
Hosted Startup Junkie events.
And hosted Startup Junkie events. And then the other thing is, like I tell people, with a library card, you can cut an album, you can shoot a short video or documentary or a movie, you can do a photo shoot, you can record a podcast. There's not much you can't do. And I want to see more libraries expand the way the Fayetteville Public Library has. And that's another reason why this area is such a fertile place for businesses to grow, because like we said earlier, even if you're just getting started and you just have the lack of resources that most people have when it comes to startups, that building just down the street from this Startup Junkie office can really be a very great place for you to get started, because there's so many tools at your disposal, whether it's temporary office space in some of our study rooms, whether it's any of those other items that I just mentioned, that you need a 3D printer, you want to make some buttons, whatever you want to do, it's all there for you. And you can do it all with a library card for free.
Yeah. I love how passionate you are. It's cool to see. Well, it seems like in the past 7 years, you've done a lot of great work here. What do the next 7 years look like for you?
Man, well, I hope to get all my kids through high school here at Fayetteville High School. I've gotten 2 through. I got 1 more to go. And he's actually over in Spain studying and learning Spanish and playing soccer.
Wow.
But he's still got 2 more years to go when he comes back. So I want to get my kids through there, and then, whatever else they're trying to work on, because I really... I'm trying to create as many opportunities as I can for them to be successful, as I'm sure most parents are of their kids that are here or anywhere. And then, I have a lot of life left in me. I'm not the retiring type. My grandfather, who was a broadcast journalist for ABC News, he worked until he was in his early 80s. And the only reason why he stopped working was because we had to take his license away from him, because we weren't sure he could really see us well. But he would drive over to New York City every day to go to the United Nations to cover news stories. And eventually we took his license from him. And then, after that's only then did we see a slow decline. And so my goal is to work as long as I can, doing things that I love, helping other people to storytell. I think anyone can tell stories. because that's something that's timeless, right? And even as we get older, you typically give people with more gray hairs, with more tread under their tires, you give them the ability to share those stories because you feel like, well, they've probably seen and done things that I haven't done yet, right? So let me listen to this person. And so I hope to be able to be that for small business owners that are coming up and need advice or guidance or just an encouraging word, because I think we all need that. But I hope to continue to do that for quite some time. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I say we're looking forward to seeing you continue to do good work here, continue to story tell. The way we kind of like to wrap up these episodes. Earlier, you mentioned all this awesome technology and all these great programs that the Fayetteville Library has. One thing you mentioned the Fayetteville Library does not have is a time machine.
Right.
If it did have a time machine, you can go back and give a younger Randy a piece of advice.
What
would that be?
Yes. Well, I owned a couple of pieces of property in Boston that I should have never sold.
Yep.
And I always kick myself for that. And I wish I had just held on to them. And I could have. I didn't need to sell them. I just sold them. And, I think a lot of times we think, oh, this is great. I'm going to take this money and do it. You don't make money on the sale. You make money when you purchase a property. And I got them for dirt cheap. And I should have just held on to them. And the other piece is that I had 100 shares of Amazon in 1998. It's a long time ago, probably before some of y'all were born. But the bottom line is, I wish I still had those 100 shares. I remember exactly the day that I sold them. And there was at a time when, when they had the .com bubble and people were like, oh, Amazon's a flash in the pan. It's not going to work. And trust me, I've done the math. It's probably like, I think, because I actually remember the exact day I purchased it and when I sold it, but it probably about $4.5 million later.
Yeah.
So that was a mistake I made, right?
And
I'll live with that for the rest of my life. And I've had conversations with other people that have been like, and I've shared this story before, but I've had friends that have told me similar stories, some with even bigger zeros on the end. And so, I think if you're blessed to live a long life, you're going to make some mistakes. The real question and real challenge for anyone listening is, do you learn from those mistakes or do you keep doing them over and over again, right? Because that's the definition of insanity.
Right.
And so, you want to learn from those mistakes and move forward. And so my advice to anyone is, let compound, let your money really grow for you and don't feel like you've got to be in and out of things. I know the poly market is one thing and Kalshi and everybody likes this quick stuff. And I would just caution that, gambling and all that other stuff, the poly markets are cool. And I don't want to, I'm not talking to anyone in particular. I'm just saying in general, just be mindful that these markets are in business for a reason because they see a need.
Yeah.
And they're meeting that need at an inexorable clip right now. And so my advice would simply be, hey, just be mindful of that because that ties into you're going to make mistakes. Learn from those mistakes and hopefully those mistakes don't have too many zeros at the end of them. Right. And then you can move on from there. But, like I said, for the most part, a good stock, good real estate, hold on to it for as long as you can and don't ever let it go unless you really need to because you can leverage that as an asset as you grow your personal wealth.
Yeah.
Your net worth. And that will help you certainly start a business too. So,
yeah. You hear that, Grace? No sports betting and hold on to your stocks.
Yes,
all right. None of that.
So,
yeah. Absolutely.
Well, Randy, if any of our listeners want to learn more about you or more about I Am Northwest Arkansas, where can they go?
Yes, they can just go to iamnorthwestarkansas.com. That's the website. We have a brand new episode that drops every Monday. Rain or shine, as I like to say. We're on every major podcasting platform, iHeartRadio, Apple, Prime, YouTube podcasts. Everywhere you go, you can find the podcast. It's been out. Like I said, we have over 400 episodes. So there's a little something for everyone there. And then, of course, you can always check me out at the Fayetteville Public Library. My email is rwilburn, just my first initial, last name, @faylib.org. If anybody watching this video needs time at the library to work on something or just some ideas about how to take advantage of the library space to get your business idea off the ground, come see me. Tell me you saw me on Startup Junkie. I'll be happy to walk you through what you need and then send you back up here to Startup Junkie so they can get your Kiva loan or you can get help with some funding so that you can get your business off the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got it all covered. And like I said, with an organization like Startup Junkie, I mean, you have everything that you need right here in your own backyard. So why not take advantage of it? And I'm here to help as well. So please reach out. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn as well. I'm on there and happy to help in any way that I can.
Yeah, we appreciate the shout out there.
Absolutely.
We encourage our audience or listeners to check out the library, check out I'm Northwest Arkansas, to even email Randy, and to follow the Startup Junkies podcast on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.
Yes.
Randy, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you guys so
appreciate it.
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you
Appreciate
guys.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share with a friend. Subscribe and review because it matters to us and we want to hear from you. If you're interested in learning how to work with us, check out the information below. See you next week.